Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for the second episode of Toaru Kagaku no Accelerator. So I was just laughing before I started recording, because this new haircut, I wasn't expecting the optical illusion of like the black top part of the headset makes it look like my head is just like super tall. So I looked in the preview screen and I was like, what in the hell is going on here? But yeah, to talk about this episode, I'm actually going to praise a lot about it. There was a lot that I thought was a lot better than the first episode, or that I liked a lot more than the first episode. But there is one thing I will go in on as being bad, and that is how cheesy the Die no Dogma ni henchmen were, how cheesy and bad they were as villains. But other than that, I think this was definitely better than the first episode, and there are a lot of things about it that I think help the series as a whole. Like, one big thing for this episode is it really started to feel further away from Index. Whereas beforehand it felt like really close to like, oh, this is definitely an Index spin-off. The way that the first episode was set up is a lot like an episode of Index. But I like that this felt further away from that, because it's nothing like Railgun. But the further it gets away from Index and the more it feels like its own show, its own different thing, the better it's gonna be, I think. Because that's what Railgun does well. Railgun can stand on its own. It doesn't even need Index. It's a spin-off, but it's good enough and different enough in everything that it stands as its own thing. So I think Accelerator needs to find its way for that, to be like, not just a spin-off of Index, but to be its own thing, and I feel like this episode it felt more like that. Also, it seems like the magical side of things will be involved, because they called Esther an Esper, but her stuff totally seems like magic. Totally seems like run-of-the-mill necromancy. But yeah. So starting from the beginning to talk about it, I feel really bad for the girl at the beginning. I was hoping that in some weird way she would have survived, but no. I was really feeling for this girl at the beginning. I'm kind of disappointed that she's like dead. Damn. But yeah, the DA Dogma people make no sense from the beginning. Like, they're like, oh, what if they find it in the autopsy? Well, we're using, like, from the water, so it doesn't matter. All of that would be smart, but it's like, who's running the autopsy? Why are they running the ambulance and stuff? Like, none of it makes sense. Like, if they're running in the ambulance and stuff, then... But they're keeping the body, so why would it matter? Like... there's just so much about it that doesn't make any sense logically for what they were doing. Like, if they're just the type of group that's going to be throwing out giant robot fights in the middle of an area where anybody could see it, and they're keeping the bodies to use, then at the same side, why are they secretive or disguising themselves as these people? Well, because it's like disguising themselves as anti-skill made sense, because there wasn't any contradiction of them trying to act like actual anti-skill people. They were just disguised as them, really. But here it's like they're acting as if they're actual paramedics, so just it doesn't make sense. The way that they talk is so cheesy and stupid. Like, the villains are very cheesy and bad. Now, going back to the opening and watching it some more, I've been, like, all week I've been listening to the song a million times. I love the song, and I think the animation in the opening's pretty good too. But just going back and watching the opening itself, not just listening to the song, the direction... And it's weird, because I think the direction in this episode was really good, but the direction in the opening is, like, so bad. Like, there's so many shots that I'm like, why is this shot being used like this, and how is it being used here? And that's not something that I normally used to think about a lot until I saw a few shows with really good direction, and now, of course, it's made me hyper aware to it. You know when you don't pay attention to something, but then you notice it in another show, and then, like, once you've learned about it, once you understand it, it's like, oh, I can't stop seeing that now. The direction in the opening is, like, really bad. And I still like the opening because the song is amazing, the animation's great, but the direction's, like, really bad. So the DA Dogma people disguised as anti-skill. They're chasing after the necromancer. They call her an Esper, but I don't think she actually is. Again, I said last episode that if she was an Esper, it'd be really, really interesting because we've never seen an Esper with a power like that. But I think she's a magic user. But yeah, they're disguised as anti-skill. She's searching for Last Order. They capture her and everything. They mention her name is Esther. They mention the coffin. And then when Accelerator comes and he confronts them and stuff, saying, she knows about something that I need to know about. So I'm going to borrow her. I need to ask her some questions. And the DA Dogma just henchmen go into their speech. It was so bad. They were like repeating the same kind of lines of being the hounds of justice and they're gonna chew you up, and none of it was developed to make any sense, and it was just so cheesy. It was the cheesiest thing. I wasn't expecting it to be like that. From there though, getting into, and they mentioned the name Hishigata, who I think is maybe, was he Basset Hound or was he Dachshund? I don't remember which is which. I think he might be Dachshund. But they mentioned the name Hishigata. And then they get into the actual fight. Now I really like this. This is where it went like, the DA Dogma people are so super cheesy, but everything else was great. I thought the animation for the fight looked great, especially the flame animation. I thought the flame animation looked really, really good, and the direction for the fight was really, really good. And that's like what I said about the direction in the opening being really bad, but for the episode itself, it was actually really good. And the music was really good for it too, the OST. Something I've never noticed even, they made sure to throw in a cool or a good shot to convey the information of Accelerator's cane folding up and attaching to his arm like that. And for some reason, I feel like I knew it did that, but I don't think we've actually seen an actual animated shot of it doing that. Then again, it's been a while since I watched Index 2, but yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an actual shot of it folding up onto his arm like that. So that was cool to notice for the first time. The only thing is, as the coffin is crumbling, there are a few shots that they're animated really well and they look really good, but it's like we cut to this weird camera angle where it looks like maybe the perspective is off, or it's like Accelerator's really close to it, and then we cut to a shot and he's like nowhere near it, he's not even in screen. So some of the shots when it's crumbling, I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird and jarring. It's like these weird jump cuts. But in general, I didn't really mind because they still looked good. But it kind of took me out of it because I'm like, whoa, that's a weird, noticeable jump. The corpse falling out of it messes up Accelerator, and I think this could be a really good thing and a really good direction for the story. Like we see Yomikawa coming in later. This could be a good way of bridging Index 1 and 2 in Accelerator's story. Like we know he goes to live with Yomikawa, or he gets pretty close to her. This could tell a story of his relationship with Yomikawa developing more. This could develop his and Last Order's relationship more. I think that's going to be the big thing for the series, is developing the relationship between he and Last Order. And it can also bridge the gap with how he gets over the trauma of the level 6 shift and what went on there with him. So I feel like this series can do a lot of really cool things in bridging Accelerator's character from Index 1 to Index 2, and just describing how he went from the person he was then to the person he was in Index 2. So I actually think that this could end up being a really, really good story in that sort of sense. But from there, yeah, they mentioned that it's necromancy, or Esther does, she mentions it's necromancy. Yomikawa shows up and gets the information. They find out that the machine can raise the level, so that's OP as hell. And then we see, okay, this part of DA is really cool. It's really cool to have this organization where there are these mysterious members. There's the Breeders, Basset Hound, and Dachshund. And I think the one head Scrub Lord henchman guy is one of those two. I think he might be Basset Hound. And Dachshund is the scientisty guy we saw at the end. I like that aspect where they're all just these people secretly working together in this group. It's just that the henchmen themselves making their cheesy ass justice speeches when totally unnecessary. And it's not like occasionally they weren't even making the speeches to Accelerator. Like before Accelerator even showed up, or when they were together in the back of the ambulance, they're basically making their cheesy villain speeches to each other. So yeah, that aspect is bad. I like the aspect that there's this sort of secretive organization going on in the background. I like that part of it. Um, from there, we get to one of the best scenes, though. I actually love the scene of Last Order caring about Accelerator's well-being and asking about him and all that. And again, the relationship and development between the two of them could carry the show. That's probably going to be the best thing that the show has to offer, I would say, is just that character relationship development. Then at the very end, we have Esther Rosenthal, and she actually gets to talk a lot more here, and I really like her voice actor here. Earlier in the episode, I didn't pay much attention to it, but once we got here, I was like, her voice acting is really, really good. She mentions that she's the one that taught them necromancy to use the bodies or whatever, and that they want Last Order. Because of course they do. All of Accelerator's villains want Last Order, and that's why he has to fight them. So yeah, as a whole, I thought the voice acting was better than last time. The voice acting was really good. Of course, I enjoy Accelerator's voice actor and all of his other roles too. And I really, really liked Esther Rosenthal's voice actor. And I liked having a more serious scene with Last Order. I think Last Order is a character that can do really well in those serious scenes. Because we all know she's a funny character when it comes to the comedy stuff. But she's a character that works really well in serious scenes too. And the direction for the episode I thought was really good too. The episode in general I thought was really good and really a bit better than last episode. The only problem is that DA, I like the one aspect that there's a secretive organization in the shadows, but DA is just so cheesy and bad. That is the one big negative, is that they were bad. But as a whole, I'd give it 6 coffins out of 10. It'd probably be way higher if it wasn't for how cheesy DA was. But yeah, 6 out of 10. That's what I'm leaving this episode at. Hope you enjoyed the episode, though. I really did. And I hope you enjoyed the video on it, too. Like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode and what you thought of my thoughts on it. Tell me what you think of DA, or if you were as put off by how cheesy it was as I was. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. If you want a link to the Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, just ask and I can give you a link. And if you want to help support the channel on Patreon, there should be a link to that in the description too. So that'd be helpful and cool as well. So yeah, that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.